This is the story of how Nike went all in on signing the greatest basketball player of all time, not named LeBron James, and creating the Jordan shoe line, which would be made by only the most well-compensated of exported labor in only the most impeccable of working conditions. The movie is called Air, and it just dropped on Prime Video. Welcome to issue number 8 of Last Page. I am Maverick King, joined today via the powers of the internet by Remington King and Jason Cedars. Gentlemen, we all just watched Air. The movie follows Sonny Vaccaro, played by Matt Damon, and his unrelenting pursuit of signing his heiress, Michael Jordan, to Nike, which at that point was a low level, or at least comparatively, a low level shoe company, and it had not become the juggernaut number one brand that it is today. It's a story we all kind of knew how it was going to end. So, was the journey worth it? Was it a good time? Was it a recommendable movie? Or is it just for sneakerheads? What's great about the three of us watching it is that I'm a sports fan, could not care less about sneakers. Remy, you're a sports fan, some interest in sneakers to some degree. Jason, neither of those. So feel like all of us kind of have a different perspective going into this movie. Remington, what did you think? Did you enjoy Air?
Yes, I did. I did enjoy Air. I think I enjoyed it maybe a little bit more than I expected. I thought that the cliche drama of it what might take me out of it, but I thought overall it did a good job of just having not too much of that, um, and there's a lot to like about the movie. Just I thought it's very well balanced as far as like its dramatic moments, its comedic moments. Its pacing was really good. Doesn't feel slow or dull at any point in a movie that easily could feel that sort of way when you're just like sitting around an office for a lot of it. So yeah, initially I would say better than I expected. And yeah, there's different things about it that I do kind of want to get into specifics, but just as a general overall, I'd say yeah, worth watching. I would recommend being like, yeah, this is a fun movie you can watch. It's about just over an hour 45. So it's good runtime, not too long. And like I said, pacing is good. So I think and I feel like it does apply pretty well to a general audience just because it obviously just leads off of Michael and Nike's names. So with those two in mind, I think just about anybody can watch it and enjoy the movie.
Yeah, no, my thoughts were similar. I was more surprised by actually how much I enjoyed it. I really, really liked it, and I'd really recommend this movie. It was something that I don't watch too often. If it doesn't have explosions or aliens or vampires or superheroes or Mario characters, it doesn't seem to be on my radar as much anymore. And this was like a great change of kind of style of movies that I've been watching lately. And I got what was it? The Last Dance? Was that that great Chicago Bulls documentary? It's like I loved that. Like I remember like the whole thing going through and like rewatching it, and I've got like those vibes from that, the knowledge of these huge moments in our sports careers or that we've lived through that we kind of didn't see all the details for. So that's actually me watching it last night pretty late. Didn't do quite as much research before this as I wanted to, but how much of it was true and like accurate is really what I'm hoping is a lot of it. Is like I hopefully didn't add too much extra stuff in it, and a lot of those big details of the movies were true. So that'll be like the deciding factor if I really like this movie for the rest of my life, sort of thing. But so impressed, so happy that we actually decided to do this movie instead of something like that we normally would have done, like I said, superhero style stuff. So no, I would recommend this one, and I want to watch more stuff like this in the future.
Very enjoyable movie. I was surprised. I was surprised that it was very easy to watch. The cast is great. Everyone kind of is just themselves. Matt Damon is Matt Damon. Jason Bateman is Jason Bateman. Viola Davis is more kind of just very firm within herself. She doesn't have these like very over the top dramatic moments or anything like that. The only one that of the main cast that kind of gives some nuance and flair is Ben Affleck, who's the stressed out Phil Knight. But everyone's great. Just watching it felt like a play where you're watching these great powerhouse actors bouncing off each other, whether it's Matt Damon with Viola Davis or Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. What really surprised me when I looked into this movie after I saw it is written by a complete unknown named Alex Convery. This guy, who looks like E from Entourage, has nothing else on his IMDb. Nothing. Literally no shorts, no short movies, no writer room stuff. This guy wrote this script in what is called a spec script, a speculative script. And what that means is that anyone you can write a script for Lord of the Rings or a Star Wars movie, and you can just as a writer just write it, but you have no ability to produce this. You can just write it and hope that a studio picks it up and then gives it the licensing and all the rights. And so thousands and thousands and thousands of writers do this, where they write spec scripts of like, oh, here's a story about Michael Jordan, and it doesn't go anywhere. But in this case, this guy, Alex Convery, to the aforementioned, the incredible 10-part Last Dance documentary about Michael Jordan, he watched that during the pandemic, unemployed, and the guy's like in his 20s, wrote the script for this, and it happened to what a lot of people consider like win the lottery, where the script got picked up and they went ahead and greenlit this movie. So just a great story of a young guy that busted into the industry in a very successful way, because I really liked the dialogue. I liked the back and forth that all these characters had with each other. Yeah, let's transition over to the cast. Remy, the cast and Matt Damon, and the movie focuses on the story of Sonny Vaccaro and him spearheading the movement to sign Michael Jordan. What did you think of his performance and the other ensemble cast?
I think they all did really good. I think they did great. I actually am surprised this isn't a movie written by Matt Damon, because it has the vibe of a movie written by Matt Damon, where he writes the film imagining himself as the main character, just being like, I just got a feeling. And then like, so I was surprised when I realized this wasn't the case. But yeah, Matt and Ben have done enough films together at this point. I think this is their fourth, maybe fifth film together. Actually, it might even be more than that. They've done a lot. Even in little parts, they've done a lot. So just like a dynamic duo that works, they just know exactly how to play off of each other at this point in their careers. And yeah, I think everybody did really good. I thought Chris Tucker was really funny. Not so that's super surprising, but he's just kind of like, you say he's kind of just himself. I was just like, he's like only this far removed from Friday. Like he really,
I literally had the thought of like, oh, Smokey made it. Yeah. Like, it's great to see him make it in the corporate world, because I looked up Howard White, the character he plays. I looked him up after the movie, just because I'm like, there's no way that Chris Tucker is anything like Howard White. And yeah, Howard White's like just very much more of a business kind of down to earth guy. But Chris Tucker was great. Like it was great seeing Chris Tucker.
They need a little comedic spin on a character. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, he's really funny. His lines, he had some of the best lines in the movie, I think. You ever seen black people go jogging?
I like that.
Yeah, really good. Jason Bateman, I'm a huge, out of all the whole cast, Jason Bateman is my favorite actor on this list. I love Jason Bateman. I think that dude has never missed. He could play the same variation of the same character in 5 different movies, and I also really like his character. And Viola Davis, yeah, really good job as Dolores. It was funny because I went and looked up. I had to look up footage of Dolores, her to see like what she sounded like, and I was like, oh, like I'm curious. Viola's a really obviously a very top tier actress, and so I was like, oh, I wonder how much effort she would put into playing Dolores and like replicating how she actually was. And they're both from Carolina, so she actually didn't really need to do much. She kind of does play like Viola is obviously known for known for being very capable as like a super dramatic actress, but that was obviously not required for this role. So I think she does a pretty good job of just like being very tame and kind of calm, collected, you know, trying to basically do all the deals for her son. Yeah, I think those are like yeah. That's I like Ben Affleck's portrayal of Phil Knight and his borderline hippie Buddhist lifestyle. Yeah, I think as far as cast goes, I think everybody does their job really well. I don't think it's any necessarily performance to write home about. I just think it's just one of those like everybody just did a good job. And yeah, I was going to say, except for Chris Messina as David Falk. 100%, dude, just ripped off. He literally just rips off Tom Cruise from Tropic Thunder. When he goes on that tirade about eating his nutsack, I was like, dude, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, no.
First of all, that would not be him. I would assume that's not an ad lib. I would assume that was in, but that is right. That was a weird point at which I was like, I feel, okay, so it's an 80s movie. It takes place in the 80s. There's no cocaine present, which is like, okay, I'm just going to go with this, that there was no cocaine being done in the Nike headquarters trying to come up with this stressed out idea. Okay, we'll go with that. I felt like eating your nutsack was kind of the safe, a safe tirade to not offend anybody.
Keep it a PG-13 rating, not an R. Yeah.
Well, it's rated R. They do say fuck a lot, which I appreciated.
I feel the R rating.
But yes, Jason.
So cast. Probably one of the things I was most nervous about going into this movie because, like you said, the whole Ben Affleck, Matt Damon combo actually is something that I'm not so attracted to. Like Good Will Hunting, that was great. But then I feel like after that, it was just Ben and Matt writing themselves into roles. So like, okay, I want to be the main character and you're going to be the main character too. And we're both going to write this movie so we get to say and do the stuff that we want. And it's like this just little like, I don't know, fantasy worlds that they sometimes create for themselves is not the most entertaining to me. So I was going into it a little bit nervous, and I thought Matt Damon did excellent. I thought Ben Affleck, I still felt like that. It's like, I'm the one who wrote this. I'm going to give myself some cool scenes and do some stuff.
He directed. He didn't write it, but he did direct
sorry.
it.
Yep, he directing. I could feel that just like a little bit, So Ben Affleck being kind of one of the weaker ones, but I thought everyone else did an incredible job. But yeah, like you guys said earlier, it's how far are they outside of their like characters? Jason Bateman is pretty much Jason Bateman from Ozark to this to to a lot of other things. It's it's him, and not that's a bad thing or anything. I love more Jason Bateman. I could watch him in everything. Replace Jason Bateman with a lot of other actors in other movies and it'd be much better. But the Viola Davis I think performance was one of the best out of all the characters there. She was very cool, calculated, type of mom that we would all want on our side if we were in Michael's position, and really thought it was cool the fact that we didn't see Michael Jordan. I didn't see that character's face the whole time. We didn't get to see him. He didn't have but like I think one or two lines throughout the whole movie, but he was there in all the boardroom meetings and stuff. But I really liked how he was not a character. It was about so much of the other people around him. So I thought that was really well casted and how they filmed it. And a lot of the other smaller performances, Chris Tucker, Marlon Wayans at the bar. I thought that was like random because my wife's watching it with me. She's like, "Who's that?" I'm like, Wayne's brothers. She's like, "Oh yeah, scary movie guy." It's like, it's like these little cameos in it did help the movie, I think, a lot. And all the performances were excellent. Was something that you mentioned though, but I want to talk about the 80s thing. I don't know if that's the next kind of topic we want to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get to
the 80s ness of the whole movie.
But you brought up Michael Jordan, and that is the central character that is never
Yeah,
seen,
yeah,
really, or his face is never seen. So this is a very interesting choice. And the writer, I watched an interview with the writer talking about that he wanted to write Michael Jordan like Jaws. Like you don't see the shark, and it made him much more of this imposing character and more of a big, larger than life type of character, which I thought was a really cool choice. Although they, more than Jaws, they portray him like Jesus Christ in Ben-Hur, where in Ben-Hur it's this epic movie, and Charlton Heston like randomly throughout his life runs into Jesus, and it like the camera just like tilts up, and you just see the back of Jesus' head, and people are like in awe, and that's kind of how they.
I don't
What was
remember
that?
that factor in Ben-Hur. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
a
absolutely.
little.
Like they bet you don't see Jesus's face. You just see like his hand or you see the back of his head and you just see people looking at him like that's Jesus Christ. And that's how they film and they wrote Michael Jordan in this, which I felt like, Michael Jordan's basically a 20th century Jesus Christ. So a very interesting portrayal and I thought it really did help lighten so it didn't make it so you needed like a dramatic Michael Jordan scene where you needed some actor to be Michael Jordan yelling or something. It was very cool to kind of just talk about the story of Michael Jordan without actually having him be someone that you needed to like write around or write through.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I had talked to somebody who had seen the movie and I was like, "Is Michael Jordan in the movie at all?" And she essentially said no. So when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, he kind of is in the movie, but not really." And yeah, interesting way of going about it. I guess it's just kind of what it was like. Better to go than nothing. Like it's like if you're gonna have Michael in it, you're gonna really be drawn to like how the man portrays Michael and how he sounds and how he looks. So it's one of those like all or nothing things. Like you're either gonna commit to like somebody putting on a really good Michael performance, or it's just like not at all because he's not even. It's like yeah, like him as the individual day-to-day man really wasn't as really a factor for the story. So I think it's the right move.
Yeah, the mom was the main character of the Jordan family, and yeah, I think they definitely put the spotlight on her.
You brought up the 80s, and that is the other big theme of the movie. And I always have a deep sensitivity to just I wouldn't even call it a wood chipper of nostalgia. That studios just grab your carcass and they throw you through. Remember this commercial? Remember this sound? And it's gotten to the point where it's so hard. Even movies that do it right, it's like hard for me just to be like, oh, I can enjoy this movie that takes place in the 80s because I just feel like so often it's just lazy nostalgia bait. But not to age shame you, Jason, but you're the one that would more remember the times of Michael Jordan, the superstar, and kind of the cultural phenomenon. How do you feel about the 80s and how it was handled in this with the music and the wardrobe? And how do you feel like it was a good, accurate portrayal of the time?
You're absolutely right. It's like with how a movie can either subtly put in the time frame or like beat you over the head with it. So I am a very proud 40-year-old, so I would not be age shamed. Yeah.
Which you look
Yes.
great. Tremendous 40-year-old.
Yes, my wife constantly reminds me of that I'm a great looking 40-year-old. So I'm okay with that. But I born in 82, so I feel like I'm more of a child of the 90s, even though, I'm starting to like remember things towards the end of the 80s. So that was set in 84? I think the movie was 84. And so a little bit before my time, but it felt a little bit too much. Like the commercials, them playing ColecoVision. What was that little video game thing that they kept playing throughout there? And I guess the monitors and how the offices looked, it would have been like the 80s and the dress and everything, but it was a little bit too much in the beginning of like, we really want you to know the time period. Like I got Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel kind of vibes of the 90s things where it was just too much, in the beginning of the movie, just really hitting us with the 90s. So it was fun. It was a fun time period. And to see some of the outfits the guys are wearing and the ties and Phil in some of those track suits, or the colors from the 80s, that was fun. But unnecessary. I don't know if I'd say a little much, but I guess that was one of the points of this movie, was to make you like really feel nostalgia about those 80s. But I could have done with a little less of it.
The early, like the first thing you see in the movie is like they showed like it's basically like a let's like set you into the time. It's just this montage of 80s music and commercials and like sports and clips, and just basically kind of just throws you. It's like a 3 minute, or it's whatever it is, as their 2-3 minute intro that's just setting like, here is American culture right now, which made me think, like, what would that look like if you were going to do it right now? If you were going to do that sort of montage for 2020,
Oh,
2023,
yeah, I do think about
what would that look like? It'd be weird. It'd be weird.
Trump saying things, Hillary saying things, all the internet memes. I feel like the internet memes will be, oh yeah, remember those memes?
Pepe the Frog. But irrelevant. But yeah, a funny thought I had. I like the setting. So I do like a good period piece, because it just feels like different. And I guess maybe it's just been a while since I've watched a modern. I'm trying to think of like the last movie I watched that was modern movie but set in a previous time period, and I really can't, like, as far as anything recent. I can't really put my finger on what was the last movie I watched that was like that. So it was, I enjoyed it. I was a bit refreshing to be like, oh, cool. We get like, they actually have to put effort into old cars, the outfits that mostly look terrible. The like wood paneling, just like little details that I thought were really funny. If you've ever like been in like an old house that hasn't been updated, that is how they look. They're super ugly. And so I thought it was really consistent. I thought like they did a really good job of visually just making it so you like through the entire movie, there's a great attention to detail of being like, it still keeps you in that 80s time frame where there's not something randomly modern in it. At least nothing that I picked up. But as somebody who was not born or nearly alive anywhere close to the 80s, I mean, 4 years removed, whatever. I personally really enjoyed the time frame and the portrayal of the 80s. Minus the coke. The dude, yeah, the agent, Chris Messina.
Whatever his last name is.
Yes. That dude for sure was like, I mean, it's like they had lines for him to do and they just removed him. So he's very much that seemed like it was, if they were going to go the coke route.
Agent for basketball players in the 80s. I wonder what kind of, he was probably just drinking lots of coffee. He was probably a coffee
big
guy.
Espresso guy.
Yeah.
You're so right, Remy. The attention to detail. There was something about the cars that I'd noticed in there. All the cars were so well done. There's like the shot where he's pulling up to Miss Jackson's house, even like the neighborhoods, how they felt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like, wow, yeah, they really made sure there wasn't anything, remotely not that era in the shot. So yeah, you're right. That was impressive. The attention to detail.
I really like his purple Porsche. Ben Affleck's purple Porsche. I would kill for that car.
Yeah,
that was sick.
17 layers of paint.
Yes, to achieve this exact.
Michael Jordan requesting that car, that red Mercedes, or is it Mercedes? Yeah, it just didn't seem that cool of a car, and that to once,
not at all.
Maybe in that era, that was the top car.
Go and pull up cars from the 60s and they just look incredible. I mean, Aston Martins, Mustangs, I mean, they all look incredible. Pull up cars from the 80s. I mean, they are ugly, gross machines. But I did like all of the shot, the overhead shot of the parking lot, and they all look brand new.
Mm-hmm.
All those cars look new. So I did like that.
Sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, just as far as the 80s go, the intro, the montage was fine. There was like 3 songs in a row that just played, and it just was, I don't need that. It kind of felt like it eventually felt balanced, other than it does what I think you should go to jail if you do this in your movie. If you play a song for less than 30 seconds, preferably a minute, but if you just play like 15 seconds from a song and then it's gone, I hate you. Don't do that. Don't just, here's a song really loud and then it's gone. it's just a poor way. It doesn't benefit a movie to just sting you with this one song. Let it play, let it permeate the scene, let it like put it behind the actors and let it kind of play out. So that was a complaint I had. Overall, the 80s, it didn't feel like it was Stranger Things, where Stranger Things just is really heavy-handed with the nostalgia bait. But yeah, the movie was handled pretty well.
The last thing I was going to say about that is the 80s are always not looked at as one of the best decades. You know, people look at 70s as far as fashion and music, and a lot of other things that came out there are great. And I think the 90s have been picked up lately as being something of a trends that people embrace. But 80s is not something that I think is looked upon, you know, very well. Like, I mean, my parents remember them saying like the 80s were not good as far as fashion and that's in cars and the look of it. So it's funny that they embrace some of these decades that were not looked as finely, but we come out of it being like, oh yeah, that tracksuit was cool, or that song or something was cool. We'll find these little gems even in these not the best decades.
Phil Knight's tracksuit, I mean, that thing was something.
Yeah. He's got like the super tights with the short shorts and then the big he looked, his proportions look so ridiculous.
I looked up go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, last thing on 80s music, I will say 80s pound for pound, you could argue the greatest era for music, because every genre pops off in the 80s. Everything took a turn to where it is now. Rock, metal music, there's like plenty of cheesy hair metal music, but Metallica was born in the 80s. Let's not forget. You had Michael Jackson, you had like all these different big you had the like Run DMC, they play like the beginning eras of hip hop, also like of what now is more modern hip hop, all stemmed from the 80s. So while not perfect, it definitely is the catalyst for all of how, in a good way, music developed to today. So total tangent there, but
couple gems, yeah.
Jack of all trades, master of none. It's funny you said that, because I was initially just kicking a push back in my mind. I was like, that's not the best decade, but it is the best if you just, as far as it contains something of everything. It's not the best rock decade like the 70s. It's not the best hip hop decade like the 90s. But you are right. It is, as far as probably the best, maybe the best pop. If you have Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, like Prince, yeah, probably 80s would be the best pop decade. But I like that point. Nice take. I looked up the real life comparisons and what was true and what was accurate and what wasn't. It seemed like the script was written very specifically to give Sonny the main character, and he's the guy that drove it. There is, I was reading an article that was saying Michael Jordan attributed more so when he's in the room and Nike's pitching him, that it wasn't the big speech or this speech by Sonny that was the big catalyst. It was more so the presentation of, I want to look him up because I thought the actor did a really good job. It was the presentation of Jason Bateman's character, Rob Strasser, and the guy that makes the shoe, the mad scientist, Matthew Maher, which I thought he did a great job as Peter Moore. That guy was like a great flair of fun that came into the movie. And so apparently, according to Michael Jordan, it was more that guy, the shoemaker, and Strasser were the two guys that sold him the most on joining Nike. It wasn't necessarily Matt Damon's character, but it was funny to me because he gives the speech, which is a great speech. It's a great way to bring all the movie to a head, and this is the moment you're selling the guy, and it makes sense for the movie. But it is funny that he gives the speech, and then everyone leaves in it. Everyone's telling him, "Hey, that was a great speech. That was a great speech." And I'm in my mind, I'm like imagining the writer. The writer wrote this speech that he gives, and it's this dramatic speech, and then he tells all the characters to reinforce what a great speech it was.
And he never actually made that speech in the first place. Even better on top.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he made a certain type of speech, and maybe it was great, maybe it wasn't. But anyway, that was according to the article I read. Was the movie definitely focuses on making Matt Damon the guy, and it kind of everyone else is an assistant to his vision. And Viola Davis is the spearhead of getting Michael the deal. And apparently she was like very, especially in the meetings, she was very much a presence and a force. But when it came to the negotiating, at the end of the movie, they're negotiating the deal. And I think that was probably more so the agent or other factors. It is crazy. I looked up because they talk about him getting a cut.
Yeah. How accurate is that, and how did that play out as far as the business and things?
So it was kind of crazy because I in my mind, so in the movie, no one has ever gotten a deal where you make a piece of every shoe or every merchandise piece sold. At that point, it just wasn't done. And then this was brought to, in the movie, it's Viola Davis wants Michael Jordan to get a piece of every shoe. They don't say what percentage it is. I looked it up. 25%.
Whoa,
That he
that's
would
what
get 25% of every shoe sold.
Holy shit.
Whoa.
Yeah. I know. That blew my mind because I was thinking like, all right, 1%, 2%, 5%. I was thinking it was going to be some small number since it had never been done before, but apparently it was 25%. So assuming that the article I read is accurate, that is a pretty crazy, like that further pushes what an all-in move this was. This is either going to destroy our careers or this is going to make history.
And $163 million worth of the shoe sold in the first year.
Mhm.
I think that was the number they threw out. So he made over what, 30 million, 40 million or something like that. Jordan. Wow.
I think I read the budget was 500 grand. It wasn't 200. In the movie they say it's 250 grand, but it actually was 500 grand. So some of the numbers they mess with a little bit for dramatic purposes. But yeah, that's the details I read behind the scenes.
Very cool.
Wow. That is wild. I did think about that. I also, I guess, yeah, in my mind, it was 5%.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was 5% for some reason. But I am curious, does it specify who initially had come up with that idea? Because it doesn't necessarily in the movie. It doesn't necessarily, didn't necessarily get the idea that it was his mom, Dolores, that came up with the idea. She's just presenting it. Was it her idea to get him that licensing? Or was that Michael's idea?
Or they?
I don't know. If I find it on the internet in editing, I will post it on the screen right now. But yeah, I didn't see specifically whose idea that was or how much it was his mom negotiating versus the agent getting involved, or like, I don't know who gets how much credit, but for the story, for the sake of the movie. And that is something I really appreciated about the movie, was we didn't get so many shoehorned Hollywood tropes. They have a couple lines where it's like, oh, like, this is our careers and stuff, but you don't get like the family being, we're going to lose the house if you don't close the deal. Like, we didn't get anything stupid like that got added. And I did like the most of the movie takes place at Nike's headquarters, and then they go to Carolina and stuff like that. But I did like the focus that this movie presented.
That's hard to do. That's hard to pull off. Like, having limited locations is sometimes it's hard. It's hard to keep your interest as an audience member if you're seeing the same settings over and over again. But I think they balance it out really well with going to like the tape room, to a couple of the meeting rooms, going to the shoe design room with, I forget again the character's name.
Peter Moore.
Yeah. I really, he awesome addition there. I've never seen that guy in anything else, I don't think. But I really, really liked his contribution. And yeah, I think it's like, even though it's all at headquarters, it's still, they show you just enough to keep you not distracted, but basically just engrossed into the film. Oh, I will say something that did come into my mind though, was it's like when he's giving the super impassioned speech, I like that they just they're like, he's like, you're going to go through all this adversity and you're going to have to dig yourself back up. And it just like is showing all these like future news clips of him. And one of them is like, dad, dead. And then it like 3 seconds later shows his dad and he's just smiling, like looking at his son. I was like, you're going to be fucking dead in a few years, dude. Like, it's a weird, dark thing that they just kind of put in there. But
especially with the history of that too, where it's, there's a lot of
a lot of gray area. Definitely.
Okay, that's getting edited out. We're not getting sued by Michael Jordan. We're not getting sued by Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan most likely will not watch this video. It'll be fine.
Dude, lawyers. Oh, all I need is a Michael Jordan lawyer. After what I said about LeBron, you don't think Michael would be like, let me crush this guy's life?
We've got the target,
Let me get the iPad.
guys. We're gonna watch out. But that's what I said is like how this movie will be remembered, more fondly for years to come as the accuracies of it. If it was like some learning from this movie about that time period, or is it their just fabrication of kind of some event? So that'll I'll definitely be doing more research on this movie just to see all those little pieces if they were correct and the details and whatnot.
Are there any other tidbits or things you want to touch on in the movie, Jason? Anything else that stood out to you about the cast or the direction or the movie or the writing or anything?
Yeah, no, like I said in the very beginning, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. Actually, I was awake and like on the edge of my seat the whole time, like very focused. I watched it kind of later last night, and I thought I'd be kind of in and out, but it was very intriguing and engaging. And as much as we were talking shit about the '80s, but the time period was cool. And you did bring up a good point too, Remy. Is I almost did feel like, were we going to be inside this building the whole time, like in that the bullpen or whatnot? But it was not kind of nice to get out into the south and and see that a little bit. But yeah, all in all, so much more impressed by this movie than I thought I was, and I'll definitely be recommending it. So yeah, good choice, guys, on a review of something different.
Well, there's a movie like in the back of my mind that I want to compare this to, where it's just an enjoyable watch. Like nothing about this movie isn't particularly amazing. It's just really well done, good acting. I thought, and they didn't ruin it by being overly dramatic. There is like tension and like you can feel Matt Damon's character, or you can feel his nervousness, and his that relentless pursuit. But it doesn't feel like it doesn't try to be more dramatic than the actual situation. They touch on it, being like of the you could get dissolved if this doesn't work out. They touch on it, they talk about it, it is there. But you just start the movie, and then like through the movie it's engaging, it's entertaining, it's just very simply a good movie. And not like I could watch it again. I think like I definitely could see myself if somebody if Tony wanted to watch it, I'd be like, yeah, I'll definitely watch that movie again. That was a good time.
There's no scenes really that stick out as being, oh, that's a scene that I want to rewatch, or some the speech I think is the best part, the best dramatic part of the movie. But generally, like you said, very enjoyable from start to end, where I was just having a good time. There's some funny lines in there. There are some lines that get thrown in that I just think that I just thought were funny. In the beginning of the movie, there's the boardroom scene where all the guys are throwing out terrible ideas on how to market, and the guy says, it's like, Charles Barkley, nobody wants to see that guy on television. That's a funny basketball joke. But yeah, very very just enjoyable. Could watch it again. We haven't done this before, so let's institute this new thing, new mechanic now. We're all going to give a rating to the movie. Now, gentlemen,
A scale of 1 to 17.
Yeah, like numbers, bananas.
I will. You can have your own personal rating system. So the way I rate, I do it on the IMDb scale. So I rate any movie I've seen. I've rated it on IMDb. It's the way I track movies. So I have a definitive IMDb rating. But gentlemen, if you just want to recommend the movie, don't recommend the movie, you can do that. If you want to do 1 out of 5 stars, 1 out of 4, make it what you will. Jason, what would you give Air?
I mean, letters, numbers. Are we watching it? Is it a B? Is it a 9? Is it a recommended? I haven't put enough thought into this, so
you can just come up with something now and come up with something
stick
later.
with the I recommend it. I give a thumbs up. Yeah, it'll be an easy of yes, maybe no. One of those. So I'm going to do one of these.
I like the thumb. I like the thumbs up. But I'm gonna go. I like the 5, 1 to or 0 to 5 scale. That's simple enough for me. So I'm gonna go if I can do halves, I'm doing a 3.5.
It's funny that you would do 3.5 because on my IMDb scale, it'd be 7 out of 10. And
there we go.
That's There we go. So IMDb, and that might sound low to some people, but 7 out of 10 is a recommend. Anything 7 and above is a recommend. Whether you're a sneakerhead, which some people have talked about this movie being like sneakerhead porn, and I am lost when people start talking about, man, that. Do you cop the new Air Jordan 25s that FDR wore when he gave the speech? I could not care less about all of that. The shoe looks cool. I mean, that's one thing. The last thing I'll say is that I liked how they show all the white shoes and they're just kind of basic 80s shoes. And when they finally show you the red black shoe, it's much more impactful because they show you all the other kind of basic shoes. I like that detail.
You want to talk about literally whitewashing the league? They made a rule that it had to be 51% white. That's crazy. That's crazy, dude.
I don't feel like they're making that up. That was probably somewhat accurate.
Oh no, that's real. That's a real thing. They actually they're like, no, none of these colors infiltrating our nice white shoes. Like they wanted the shoes to be as plain and boring as possible. That's crazy.
It gave them opportunity to set themselves up for the rest. Yeah.
And that was the last time that there was a white majority in the NBA. And that is Last Page.